Hello, everybody. Welcome to Choice, Change and Action podcast. You are with me, your host, Simone Milasas. And this podcast, I just got off it. I just had so much fun with two of the ladies, Sabrina and Natalia from Colombia. And Sabrina is a Bars Facilitator. Natalia is a Certified Facilitator of Access Consciousness, which means she facilitates foundation, some more of the advanced classes. We spoke about how they came across Access, which is always intriguing to me, some of the stories that you hear and how they use the tools of Access Consciousness. We spoke a lot about the tools that they use in business because both of them, strangely, both got inherited some rather large businesses. And they use the Access Consciousness tools in that and are both big fans of Joy Business and the book, etc. It was a lot of fun. So I really, really hope that you enjoy this. And we also spoke about Choice for Possibilities, the class that one of the more advanced classes that there's a few of us that do that. And I will be in Colombia, in Medellin, Colombia, at the end of August for a Choice for Possibilities class. So if by any chance that you'd like to travel and go to Colombia, what if now is the time that you chose that? I love exploring the earth and the planet, and it's just, oh, how did we get so lucky? So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please enjoy.
Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Choice, Change and Action. So I have two lovely ladies with me today. It is I think it's their early evening in Colombia. So welcome Sabrina Acosta and Natalia, is it Tobon?
Yes.
Oh, well done, Simone. So welcome, ladies.
Hello, happy to be here. I followed this podcast for so long. I'm so excited. I'm having my starstruck moment.
Well, now you're on it. So here we go. So I wanted to talk, I'm coming to Colombia soon, and I'm coming to Medellin, which I think is so exciting. I've been to Bogota and a couple of times now, and I'm coming to Medellin. I'm coming for a Choice for Possibilities class, which is an Access Consciousness class, and it's more of one of the advanced classes. I'm super excited about coming to Medellin, and I'm going to be totally honest with you guys too. It's like what do you know about Medellin? Oh, cartel. Like that's what the world knows. And I know we've had this conversation in class or with you guys before, that when people think of Colombia, they think of the drug cartel and cocaine and things like that. But it's the same thing as when people think of Australia, they think of koalas and kangaroos. And I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so much more than that. And there's so much more in Colombia. And I've discovered so much more in Colombia. And you guys definitely showed me a different Colombia. From the one thing that stands out to me too is the fashion was incredible. Like I did some great shopping in Colombia. The food is incredible. The people are incredible. The land, last time I was there, the land even shook for us and we had an earthquake, which was amazing. So I think it's a really beautiful, amazing country. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is a couple of things. And one is, you are both involved in Access Consciousness. You're both Access Consciousness facilitators now, right?
No,
Yes?
Natalia.
No, not yet.
I am Sardi's Bars Facilitator.
Okay, so Sabrina is a Bars Facilitator and Natalia is a Certified Facilitator, which means that she can facilitate foundation class and a Bars class. And I wanted to talk to you about using the Access Consciousness tools whilst doing business in Colombia. But also, I'm going to ask you first off of how did you come across Access? Because that's always intriguing to me. So, Sabrina, let's start with you. It's like, how did you come across Access?
It's a cool story. Like the first time I heard about Access was like in 2011 or something like that. I came across the Being You book. It had just been released, and Amazon hinted at I might like to read that, and I did, and I loved it, and it completely was mind blowing for me. Then I went onto the Access page, to search, like, where do I get this thing about the bars that they talk at the end of the book? And the nearest place I could get a session, not even a class, was in Florida. And at that
Wow.
moment, it was like super far from me. I live in Colombia, and there was nothing in Latin America at the moment that I searched. And I could only find like a lady in Florida. And then I read a couple of other books. And it was so funny because at the end, they always say about the bars. And I
Yeah.
was like, this bars thing seemed like important, and if I cannot do the bars or get the bars or what, and there was not so much information. I didn't even know like there was like this technique that they put their fingers in it, like there was not much information back then. And then I was like, if I can do that, well, I can use, like, I don't want something tricky that I cannot get to. So I
Yeah.
let it rest for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And like 8 years passed, and one day I was like listening to something, and I heard like this lady say some like gibberish thing, and I was like, that, and the access consciousness clearing statement came to my mind, and I was like, I wonder whatever happened to that. And I went online and I went to the page, and I found 2 classes. One in Argentina. I was traveling to Argentina, and I found one class on the same dates that I was going to be in Buenos Aires, and one class in Bogota on the next day after I arrived. So I was like, "That, I'll take the class." And the rest is history. I took the class, and it was amazing. And from then on, I began taking like many classes afterwards.
So let me ask you, you're saying that when you went onto Amazon, Amazon was the one that said, "Hey, you might like this," based on the other books that you bought. Okay,
Yeah.
I love that story because that actually, like, I was talking about this the other day with algorithms, and like we just had, I've got one of the shops that we have here, Antiques and Possibilities, is an antique shop, and a friend of ours who you guys know, Caesar, he wanted to buy this watch, right? So he sends through this payment, and everything alerted us, like from our bank to the program that we use, when this may be fraudulent. And I was like, oh, because it's from Mexico. And I was like, God, that I hate the way that that occurs, and that's algorithms, right?
Uh-huh.
So, and then my other friend Chris is in India at the moment, and his credit cards got cut off because he was using them in India, even though he told his bank that he was going to India. They started like they shut down his account, and I was like, again, we were like algorithms, like, oh my God, you're in India, something's fraudulent. So I love a story about algorithms where it actually worked, and it worked
I
for
know.
us. So yeah, that's amazing. So we got to go. Okay, thank you, Amazon, for bringing Being You. And Being You is a book. It's called Being You: Changing the World, and it's a book by Dr. Dane here, and we'll have a little, section in the subscription notes as well, that will have a link to that, because it's translated into many different languages, and it's also on Audible in Dane's voice as well. And it's a brilliant book. It's one of those books that I think every time you read it, or you just like open it randomly, you're like, really, was that in there before? Because you receive it in a different way, and as you change and as your life changes, you read it again and you're like, oh, now I get what he's talking about. Or you hear it different. And that's, for me, a lot about how access actually works, about how consciousness works. So thank you, Sabrina. So Natalia, it's like, how did you come across access consciousness?
So I was always like searching for new classes, courses, and things like to try. And I got to this lady in Mexico. We were doing a class of magic or something like that, and she just said like the clearing statement, and I heard the clearing statement, and I was like, "Wow, what is that?" And like that's pure magic, you know? Like it was like this energy of the magic wand, and just
Yeah.
so I was like, "What is that?" And they were like, "Access consciousness," and I was like, "No, what? I've never heard about that before. Here in Colombia, we don't have that." And they were like, "Yes, you do." And I was like, "No, I've tried everything, and there's nothing here in Colombia about access." And then they went like, "No, you have to run your bars." I was like, "What is that?" So I started like searching, and then I was like, "I want the class." I didn't want a session. I wanted the class, and I was like this is what I've been looking for all my life. Like I knew there was something else possible, and I was looking for it like everywhere. But as soon as I heard the clearing statement, I was like, okay, this is what I was looking for. I don't know what it is, but it had like this energy that pulled me right away. And then I did the bars class, the foundation, and I didn't stop, and I went like all the way and became
So
a
I love
person.
that the two things that you mentioned here is one is the clearing statement, and we'll put a link to, there is a video that myself and Dr. Dane here talk about, and it's on theclearingstatement.com if you want to check it out. And we'll put a link to it in the subscription notes. And you're not the only person to say that. Dr. David Kubis, who you guys also know, he's
Mhm.
based in Vienna, Austria. I love his story. His mother used to always send him all these different things, right? And he's this, successful lawyer in Vienna, and she'd send him all these things, like, and he'd be like, "Oh, here we go, Mum, being my spiritual mother, like sending me another thing." And she sent him the clearing statement, and she was like, "Have you listened to it yet? Like this thing?" And he said no, and he said, "I wanted to lie." He said, "But I knew she'd know that I was lying." So I went, "Okay, I'm just going to listen to this thing that she sent," and it was on the clearing statement. And he said, as soon as he heard it, he went, "What the hell is that?" And he was like, that it gave him this sense of freedom. And he couldn't explain it, but he said it gave him a sense of freedom. And he ended up traveling, like, I don't know, huge across, Vienna, like cities, etc., to get to a class. And then the next class he did, he was trying to find where, because I think like many of us, when we found something like Access, we went, what is this? I require more now. So he's in Austria, and he did the beginners class, like he did a bars class and foundation, and he wanted to do something with Gary and see where the next class, and it was in New Zealand, and he was like, New Zealand? But he ended up flying all the way to New Zealand to actually go to this class with Gary. But it was the clearing statement that got him. So the clearing statement, if you're listening, is now it's a little changed since I think you guys would have found it, is right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine, shorts, boys, provids, and beyonds. And the thing is, it's so energetic. There's a whole explanation of it, and you get that explanation in the classes as well, in your manuals. And also, I said you can watch the video of myself and Dr. Dane here. But it's so talking about, basically, my quick description is, it starts to delete all of the crap in your life. Like all of those, if you even just look at right now, if you're listening and think of something like, let's look at money, because most people they think they have a problem with money. Okay. Even if they have $10 in their bank account or $10 million in their bank account. So if you look at, what does money mean to you, and even asking that question, and something might come up, like there might be a verbal answer that you go, oh, it means hardship, or it means, I'll never have it, or something, it means, I'm lucky, or anything. Or it could even just be something that's energetic. So you don't have the words that go with the energy. But if you use this clearing statement and you just run it and you go, okay, what does money mean to me? Even what does money mean to me today? Like that's, if you notice, that's got a little bit more energy on it, because it's like, what does it mean to you today? Like what's showing up in your life today in regards to money? So everything at that is times a godzillion, destroy and uncreate it. So you like pressing the delete button, right and wrong, good and bad, pot all nine, shorts, boys, provids, and beyond. So if you desire to know more about it, have a look in the subscription notes, but play with it. And if you can't remember it all, which you won't, you can just say POC and POD, or all that stuff that those, ladies were talking about on the podcast, because it's about energy. So yeah. So there's that. The second thing I wanted to ask you about, Natalia, is you just mentioned twice there about how much you did everything. You were searching and looking for everything. What
Mhm.
drove that? Like you looking for everything?
Like I had this sense there is something else possible there, and yeah, so I was looking like for classes with like with I don't know spiritual thing or angels. Um, well, yes, if you name it, I did it, you know. But there was something else. Like I knew there's something else, and there was something missing. Like at the beginning, I like it and everything, but then like it didn't work.
Hmm.
And but with Access was different because it like just pulled me right away, and it was like, wow, like, like I knew that was what I was looking for. Like it had
Yeah.
this energy of okay, this is what I was looking for. So it was I knew it right away. It was not
Yeah.
like after doing a class or something, just hearing the clearing statement, I was like, okay, this is what I was looking for. And I just would like to know more and more and more about this. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I was really similar. I did so many different things, and my business that I had at the time was called Good Vibes for You, and we used to do a lot of mind, body, and spirit festivals, and a lot of music festivals and things like that as well. But I was always like, I'd walk around and look for what else was there. And every time I'd get my, astrology, numerology, my aura readings, like, I would go see the latest, Indian guru that was in town or something, and I'd get all my, my crystals, and I'd make sure I cleanse them on a full moon, and, my sage sticks, and I would do all of that. And I think like you, Natalia, I was like, I wasn't finding what I was looking for, but I didn't know quite what I was looking for. And
Exactly.
I get over the years, I realized I was looking for that sense of peace and that sense of no judgment in my world, and just the ability to just wake up and be me and not function from all of these expectations and projections and judgments that maybe others have of me or I have of me, etc. To have that, well, another the mantra of Access is all of life comes to us with ease, joy, and glory. And for me, I get that's what I was looking for. And I remember one day when I said to Gary, I just met him, and I said to him, "Do you know how much money you've saved me?" And he went, "That's not usually what people say to me." And he goes, "What do you mean by that?" And I went, "Well," I said, "I'd usually walk," because I met him at a Mind, Body, and Spirit festival. And I said, "I'd usually walk around to all these places, and I'd spend so much money just looking at everything, going, okay, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that. And then all of a sudden I found Access, and I went, oh, and there was just this like this this ease, like this vibration that was like, I'm going to say it was more congruent with who I knew I could be, and more congruent with that vibration of the earth that to me has no judgment. And I was like, that. Now, I want to say too, everything else that I was looking at and everything else I, delved into, like you said, Natalia, you liked it. It was great. Like I think there's some amazing, like I still like crystals. It's
Mhm.
like I still enjoy so many of those things, and some of them I would use, some of them I wouldn't. It's not about excluding all of that and just going Access is the answer, because Access is not the answer. For me, it's like what I found is I am the source of creation. And
Ex-
Access's tagline is empowering you to know that you know. And for me, that's what I got. It was like, what do you know about this? And the thing that I found really refreshing was with Access, and not everyone does this. I get it. There's some facilitators who really out there in the world are trying to, shove Access down people's throats, sort of thing, and, be like, you must do this. That's not how I function. It's like if I'm sitting on a plane next to someone, I'm not going to be like, hey, I've got the next best thing. You should be. It's like I just have a chat to them. I just be me. But the thing that I found was everything I was going to, there was this energy of it, like, if you don't choose this, you're basically fucked. And I was like, I didn't like that's the part I didn't like, because it always made me feel less than. Like if I wasn't choosing to do this ritual or do this, I was going to be absolutely screwed. And that's not true. Whoever you are in the world, wherever you are in the world, for me, it's about you choosing you. Access consciousness tools got me there way quicker, and I think got you two there way quicker to find yourself and just be like, yeah, okay, cool, because you're amazing. Every single one of you out there listening is absolutely amazing, and your capacities are way more than what you've been willing to acknowledge, like way more. So, and you can have way more joy, you can have way more happy, you can have way more ease with every single situation in your life. And for me, that's what Access consciousness is about, is empowering you to know that you can choose that. So I love the way you guys have that you came across it. It's sort of like two different ways as well. Profit is how much living you can create when you are willing to create a bigger life. Please join my latest and very low-cost membership with me, Simone Milasas, at the Profit Club. SimoneMilasas.com/Profit Club. So now let's get down to business. So both of you, I mean, Sabrina, you're a Bars Facilitator, and Natalia, you're a Certified Facilitator of Access Consciousness. And I mean, tell me what else. So let's start with you, Sabrina. What else are you involved in? And is there any of the access tools that you use more than most that you would like to share with everybody?
Well, besides, like, I also translate for Access.
I was just about to say that you are one of our translators as well.
I translate for Access, and I also have a family business with my sister. We own a land in Colombia, and we have like a business that runs like with like different things with land mainly because my family is
What do you have on the land?
In one we have sugarcane, and the other one is woods, like a forest, and cattle.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really awesome.
And I have to say, like, one of my favorite tools is like the Joy of Business book. With my sister, like, we came into this land through inheritance, and so when we got it, like, we just like someone gives you something that they own, that they run, and it's like they're not even here to give it to you, you know?
Yeah.
So when we got it, we had no idea about like the sugarcane business. We didn't have like any idea what to do with land that is like a forest. And it's been like a process to learn about it, to like find our joy and our like way into it. And when I came across the Tools of Access, like, I love that book. And my sister and I usually go around like January to like the forest farm, and we played with your book, and we're like, we do questions, and it's like, what would we like to create this year, and what questions can we ask, and what else is possible, and like all of those tools that are in the book, we've used it. And I have to say, like, our business has grown like every year since we began doing that, like every year. And before, when we got it, they were like, the best year was like 4 years ago, and then it's slowed down, and then it's not better, and that's what happens. This business is like super unstable and blah blah blah. And we got there, and I was like, we have no idea, so we have no like point of view about how the business works. We have no reference. And we began using like the tools, and it's become a thing. We go, like, we try to always travel, make like a special space to play with the tools, to ask new questions, to extrapolate, to like see what else is possible. And it's been amazing to see how it, and I still have no, like, not many idea of how the business works. It just does. And
but you know what? I think that's some of the best people in business, is because to me, business is not about going, oh, I know how this goes. The second you go, I know how this goes, you're going to kill the future possibilities, because being in question. And I love, as you're talking about the woods, Sabrina, because I can so perceive that the woods really like you being there. Like, it's like they really like you and your sister being there, and acknowledge them in that different way. It's
because it's a land that it's in a mountain, and it's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. And we've decided like to keep the woods and like to preserve the woods, and like it has always been like about like the woods, like the main thing, and it's like a source for water for so many people, and a lot of land also. And it's surrounded by a lot of how do you say, cultivos. Like they harvest a lot of food around, but sometimes they don't honor like the cycles of the land, and you see a lot of like places that are already like in dirt, because they have like just grown and grown and grown. But we have like this huge like chunk of land that is just like a forest. And talk about like inviting other people by your choice, because it's our choice to leave it be. People are like, yeah, but like, like they do in that farm, you cannot like use like the forest land to feed the cattle, and you should keep it. And thank God that they do it, because then we all have water, and people have begun to like grow on that culture, like to guard
Right.
the forest way more.
Yeah.
Just because we've been doing it for so much. That land has been in my family for a long time. So just by that choice, it has changed like a lot of the land, and it's such an amazing space. Like, it's super high in the mountains. There's not a soul there. It's like super lonely, and there's a lot of space. It's really amazing.
I love your woods though are very loud. Like as you just went, it's super lonely. You can hear the trees go, but we're here. it's, not,
Yeah.
it's not lonely. We're here. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to also recommend a great. I think it's on YouTube. It's a documentary called Rachel's Farm, and it's an Australian. She's actually an Australian actress, and they had some land down in Victoria in Australia. And what she's done with the land and how she went, okay, we need to change the way we are with the land is incredible. And I mean, it's called regenerative farming, and like you said, it's the way you use the land so that you are keeping the nutrients in the soil, etc. Not just like I guess abusing it, like. Regenerative farming is so much about the soil and making sure that the soil is good, because if the soil is good, you can pretty much grow anything.
Anything.
Yeah, so I'll send you the link, but it will be in the subscription notes for anyone else who wants to have a look at it too. I'm a big fan of that. I mean, I've got a food forest that I'm creating in my backyard, and we're planning some whole things, more things this month after, because I'm just back from overseas. A couple of days after the full moon, we're doing a whole planting of these coconut trees and everything in my backyard. It's going to be really cool. I'm very excited. Yeah. So what would be, if you could come up with like, say, one or two questions that you use the most, Sabrina, what would that be in business?
Well, I have to be honest. I'm super simple with my questions. I try to keep them as open ended as
Yeah.
they are possible. I always love what else is possible and how does it get even better.
Mhm.
And I also ask like for myself, what space, energy, consciousness can me and my body be to engage like with all of those, like all of these things, and to like really like know and acknowledge what are the whispers that I'm getting.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I like it's not that I really know the game. It's just like I go and play and do, and I choose things, and I extrapolate with my sister, and we go like from like following the energy a lot. And I was like, good thing that I have no idea how the business works, because I have a lot more freedom to like just go with the energy.
Yeah.
And I ask also of myself a lot, like what space can I be? What contribution
Yeah.
can I to like this? And like
Yeah.
that's like the main approach that
I love that. And hey, I'm the simple questions are some of the best questions. I don't think it needs to be complicated. And I think that's what I like about access consciousness too. One of my favorite questions that I go through phases. You get a bit OCD about a question. And one of the ones I'm asking at the moment is, what are the infinite possibilities with this? Like when whatever this is, so it's like the woods or, a business, what are the infinite possibilities with this? Or if I'm the other day I was making a phone call to a bank, and there was some stuff going on that I was like, oh, really? So I was like, okay, what are the infinite possibilities with this? And I just said it 3 or 4 times and did that energy, okay, what can I be with this? And everything just rearranged itself to work for me. And it doesn't always work out that you're like, rainbows and unicorns. But if you keep asking questions and like follow the energy, like when you were just saying about follow the energy, one of my favorite things with access is like, if you just even slightly change your point of view, then it opens a different door. And then you walk through that door, and then you just change your point of view slightly again. And then there's a different door that opens. So it's like this, you're continuously meandering, like on this path of greatness and on this path of how does it get any better than this? And it doesn't have to be hard. So yeah. Can I ask, it might be a bit personal question, Sabrina, but that was really interesting the way you said you ended up with this as an inheritance and they weren't even there to give it to you. So was that from your parents?
Like the forest that the land that it's in the forest, it was my mother's. My dad originally bought it, and then when they divorced, she left it. He left it to my mother so she can use it. And
Right.
she died suddenly. She died in a car crash. So it was like
Right.
we had no idea what she'd been doing, like with the land for the last couple of years. So it just
Right.
like landed on our hands. And the other land, it was from my grandmother, and I
Right.
hadn't spoken to her like in years,
Wow.
years. And one day we got a call, and it was like, your grandmother died. You have to get here. And literally, they gave us like paperwork, like the keys and the things, and what she left you, which
Yeah.
is
Wow.
and pretty like mind-boggling in a lot of ways. It's been like a whole year journey, like to go through it.
Yeah. And how long ago was this?
My mother died in 2000. It's funny because my mother died in 2012, and
Mhm.
for 7 years we did nothing with that land. It had so much charge. She died leaving that land,
Yeah.
and it had like all this charge from past things. And I went to a 7-day event in Costa Rica,
Yeah.
the last one before COVID hit. And
Yeah.
when I came back, I was like, that land is whispering in my ear, and we have to go there. And I went there, and we fixed the house, and we made like all these arrangements, and COVID hit. And it was because of the land that we could move. We had a house. We had like a lot of freedom, because anything that where you outsource, like where you create something that was which related with the food chain, you could
Mhm.
have like this freedom to move, and it
Yeah.
gave us that. And we have a house, and it, like in the countryside, it was so different how everything happened with the pandemic. So we
Yeah.
had like, this amazing experience, like for the longest time, and it was such a gift. And that's when we came back to the land, like a couple of years back.
Wow.
And
I love it.
yeah, and my grandmother died in 2018, and since
Right.
then
Okay.
we've been
Another business. Wow. How'd you get so lucky? That's awesome. I love that, Sabrina.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Natalia, and it's like, what about you and business? And it's like, what's your story with business? And what have you? I know you're a certified facilitator, and you've got some other things on the go as well, right?
Yeah.
Also, some things I
I
think.
I also inherited some radio stations here in Colombia. Not only in Bogota, we have in different cities all over Colombia, and now we have them with my brothers. So yes, the access tools have helped me a lot, because before I was like not present with the family business. I was just like I just trust everything they say it and did. And now I've been asking questions and being more present in the board meetings, and they're like, "Oh my God, your questions! They have been such a contribution." And so it's been amazing how it has changed with using the tools and asking questions.
That's great that your brothers are actually willing to receive you being there and asking questions.
Yeah, well, not working there, but yeah, but like yes, like in the board meetings and everything, like just asking questions and being more present. They're like, oh yes, like I think they have this sense that I'm being more present with the business,
Yeah,
and it actually has grown. So it's amazing, because before
that's
I said
awesome.
whatever I said or something, they were like, oh yes, yes, whatever, but now like they hear
Yeah.
me.
It's I mean, I'm going to call the card of being a female as well.
Uh-huh.
It's when my father died, I had a trading account, like a stock trading account, and so did my brother. And I was doing so much better in mine than what my brother was. But when my father died, he left everything to my brother to manage, because that's what you do. You leave it to the son, not to the daughter.
Water.
And yeah, it was interesting. People were like, "Why did your dad do that?" And I was like, "Well, he chose to do that." So my dad was so old school that a woman should be looked after. And he was such a gentleman that I know it wasn't done from being unkind. It was just done because that was the appropriate thing to do. That was the honoring thing to do. But it's interesting to see how that has changed over the years as well. And I was just in Sardinia in Italy, and there was this story that they were telling me about a lot of families who owned a lot of the land in Sardinia, right? What they did was they had a lot of agriculture. So they had a lot of cows that, they had, with meat, etc. But the whole fishing thing and the whole coastal thing was looked at as that's the poorer part of the land. Okay. So what they did was a lot of the families would leave the agriculture to the sons and they would leave the coast to the daughters. Now, if you look at Sardinia now, the coast is just like, it's like Amalfi in one way, it's like the coast is what has made the money and all the tourism and the fishermen and all things like that. So it sort of flipped. And even though they thought they were leaving the sons, I mean, it's still successful, the agriculture, but not nearly as much as the coastland is worth so much more. So the daughters ended up making way more money than the son. So I just thought that was an amusing story. It's one of those things where the females are looked upon as not capable. So, and I don't have a judgment about it, and I don't have a point of view, because I think over history, there's so many things that have gone on and changed. And I don't get that there's anything for us to fight. It's just, again, what can we be in every situation and, allow, I guess, consciousness to contribute to us. So Natalia, in the business side, business money side sort of thing, it's like, what are some of the questions that you would use or that you would invite people to play with?
Well, questions I love always: what else is possible? Where do I need to put my energy today? Like, or what energy is required? Like, for example, in meetings, like that has helped me a lot. And also, I
Do you
love the mantra. I love it. Like, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. I do it all the time, every day. Like, uh, and like before a meeting, or if I have something like I know it's big, I am always like, oh my god, like repeating it nonstop.
I do that too. I do it so much as well. I think that's why I'm grateful for my OCD that comes in. Is like, and if I can't sleep, I'll do it. And you know what I do? I even do it on my thing. I'll like lie in bed and I do it. I'm like, God, okay, do it 10 times, and then I can never remember the 10th time. So I always go, did I just drift off? Did I go to sleep? Like, what happened? Or trying to find a car park, anything. It's like all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. It's a great tool and it works.
Uh-huh.
Hey, you mentioned about the where is your energy required and what energy can you be like, in this meeting. That it's a really two really great tools. Do you want to expand a little bit more on that and if what has shown up for you with that, or just for the listeners of how to use it?
Yes, well, when I ask like every day, like where should I put my energy today or something, it's like I do the question and then it pops like, okay, this, and then call this or whatever. So it's been a huge contribution. And also, like in the meetings with my brothers, like the energy that is required, it has shown me like a different space. Because before, like I was in the meeting, but I was not present, and then I was just there. And yeah, so now with these questions, it's like I'm present. I like I see what, like, yes, like I see what I have to say or ask, or so, like the energy of the meetings, they change. And yeah, it's amazing, it's different.
Yeah, and I would add to that too that if you use those tools, it takes you out of looking for a result. To me,
Hmm.
it takes you out of looking for a conclusion. So you're not going, right, I'm going into this meeting and this is what's going to happen and da 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 da, and this is the best, choice. It puts you into question. So like I cannot tell you how many people in, my classes or with a private session or etc. go, okay, I need to have this conversation with this staff member or whatever. We need da da da. And I'm like, don't have the conversation before you actually have it. it's like come up with one question and walk in there and go, okay, so truth, maybe in your head, it's like, you know, do you actually want to do this job anymore? Because, and then you'll find out. Then they'll be like, you know what, actually, no, you know what, I've been a little bit bored or whatever. Or they'll be like, yes, and you'll get the enthusiasm. You'll get the information. From that information, then ask another question and then choose again. And that's like that meandering energy rather than the, okay, this person is doing a shitty job, you know, it's time for them to go. And it's like, well, you have no idea what else is going on as well. So if you're being questioned, don't look for that result or go to a conclusion. There's so much more that can show up. And it's ease. Like that's the ease. Like that's the all of life comes to us with ease, joy, and glory. So yeah.
And it's amazing how something pops in the meeting or something that you like really it's required to explore a little bit more. If you're in question, like, yeah, it's amazing how it always like pops up, and then you get something, you get to a new space or something.
Yeah. And to me, that's what so much of this is about, is getting to that new space
Mm-hmm.
and embracing that new space and then
Exactly.
engaging with a different possibility. Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool. Thank you so much, guys. Hey, we are pretty much at the end of the podcast here. So I'm going to ask both of you, is there something else that you would like to add and like something that's popped that you would like to share with the listeners before we go?
What else? Well, I would just like to invite you for a class of choice for possibilities, because when you do this class, it's an explosion of awareness, and then you get to this space of infinite possibilities. It really like changed everything for me. So if you like can explore this class, it's an amazing uh choice. I don't know, it's yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sabrina?
Well, I would say to everyone, just like, I know we've heard it before, but it's like use the tools, like find out how it worked for you, how to play with them, and take it from someone that it's like winging it always, like through life. That if you like explore the tools and you use them, they actually do work and they create miracles beyond what you can imagine, beyond what you think that it can happen. Just playing opens so much possibility, and it's so easy. Just choose a tool that pops for you and see where it takes you. And yeah, I would say just like wing it.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much.
And
And
something
there's,
else, can I add something else there? Like the tools are so simple that you actually sometimes you're like, that's so simple that really like, but if you start using them, then you will see all the change and all the ease and all the joy that will come to your life. Yeah, so try
yeah,
them.
and there's you know, a friend of mine, he's a musician. He came along to one intro like years ago, and he came away with the tool, how does it get any better than this? And I remember he said to me, Simone, he said, every time I do a gig, and he said, and I ask, how does it get any better than this? He said, I sell out of CDs.
Wow.
He never came to a class, never did anything else. He just took that one tool and used that. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's like that's what worked for him. You know, I haven't seen him in years. I don't know where he's at now. How does it get any better than this? He's asked. But it's about being in question. And there are so many things out there. It's like Dr. Dane here has a podcast as well, and we'll put a link to that in the subscription below. There is, you know, I've got a YouTube channel. Dane's got a YouTube channel. There are hundreds of certified facilitators around the world and thousands of bars facilitators and practitioners in over 187 countries. So wherever you are listening, you know, do what these ladies did and check out if there's a class near you. And I would highly recommend starting with a bars class. A bars class is phenomenal. And there's so many other things. Like you've got, you know, like I've got a business done different class coming up. There's Joy Business Facilitators all around the world, and there's some fabulous ones. So you don't need a prerequisite for that class. There's a no prerequisite class. So there's a lot. And there's also the books. There are so many books. Like we mentioned the Being You Changing the World book. We mentioned my Joy of Business book, and there's so many more. So, you know, if something pings for you, What if you chose it? What if your life could be better today and tomorrow than it was yesterday? And that's what I invite all of you to explore and engage with. So thank you so much, Sabrina and Natalia, for joining me here. I really, really, really look forward to coming to Colombia. I'm very, very excited about that and super grateful. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you later, guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Bye. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change, and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.